Thank you for joining. This is Exploratory seminar. Today, I'd like to present creating SaaS KPI with AI prompt. My name is Kan Nishida, CEO at Exploratory. And today, I'd like to show you guys how you can create the essential, the most important SaaS KPI by using that data wrangling with AI prompt feature. So, why KPI matter in the SaaS business? That's because you want to grow the business, and then in order to grow the business, obviously you want to make your business health on the status as visible as possible. So typically, like you build a dashboard like this, you have the KPI, and then like you want to track the trend is going up or going down, like when it goes down, when you might see like some dip type of things, but the problem is not everybody can have that type of dashboard. It's not because they don't think it's important. That's because, well, it's not that easy to come up with even a sounds simple KPI. Well, typically what you do is you go to the Excel or some type of spreadsheet, and then you do some kind of calculations. Well, if you are familiar, if you love Excel or spreadsheet type of things, it's probably fine. But then most of us are not that proficient in Excel. And also, even if you are like proficient and you're familiar with Excel, but it's creating the calculation in Excel is kind of nightmare if you haven't done that before. Then like another type of situation is like you have the data in the database you can access through SQL queries. Well, like if you are familiar and proficient with SQL queries, probably it's not the problem, but then most of us are not that proficient, or it's not like we like writing the SQL queries every time to just get some numbers. Both of them can be done, but then the problem is the first time is okay, but would you like to repeat that process every month or every week and so on? So ended up this problem of like you have data, but then you ended up not being able to monitor. You can monitor if you want to, but the problem is you don't have time. You're busy. There's so many other things going on. So you ended up like kind of putting it in the back burner. How we can solve this problem? That's where the data wrangling with AI prompt feature in Exploratory comes in. So with version 12, which we released a month ago, we changed the paradigm in the data wrangling. Started with a command-driven paradigm or script or function-driven paradigm to dialogue UI-based paradigm where you can click the buttons and select from drop-down list or something like that to get that data wrangling done. But now with this feature, you can type in your natural language or the English, whatever the language, then to express what you want with the data, how you want to transform the data, what type of calculation you want to create. You just type it, then Exploratory, but use AI to generate the R script. And also, along with that, easy to read explanations. So even if you are not familiar with this type of script, you can just read what this script is going to do. And then if you're fine with it, click on the button, and then you get the data the way you like. Now with this new paradigm, you basically want to do is like just type what you want. In this scenario, let's say like you want to see like a conversion rate or retention rate as a KPI, then all you need to do is just type the calculate conversion rate or retention rate and so on. With that, I like to introduce 5 essential SaaS KPIs based on the stage of the sort of the customer phase. You want to have the different KPI to monitor. So with that, these 5 essential KPI are the one that I would like to talk about in this seminar. So let's start with the conversion rate. Conversion rate is pretty simple, right? So like percentage of the users converting from free trial to paid. And why it's important because this is kind of like a key metrics for measuring like how efficient your marketing or sales activity is. So let's do quickly use the Exploratory AI prompt to create the conversion rate. So this is data that each row represents each user who's trying the product or the service. And then the conversion column has yes or no. Okay, so right now, like I'm looking at, like yes is like 10.77%, or about like 10, 11%. Is people who actually converted it. The rest didn't convert. They tried it, but they didn't convert. Okay, so that's at the whole thing, right? But we want to actually track the conversion rate by monthly. So here, like we are interested in calculating that. So what you want to do is this like AI wrangling button, either click or use the shortcut or Command L, or if you're on Windows and Control L. And once this dialog is open, then all you need to do is type what you want. So in this case, calculate conversion rate by months. And at this point, it sends this prompt and also the sample size 30. That means 30 rows sample sent to the AI service. And the AI look at the data with the prompt and come up with the most optimized R script, and which is here. Okay, and then explain what is happening in that script by function. If you're not familiar or you don't want to even see this kind of script, then you want to actually look at this expected result. Okay, and then if you are not comfortable sending the data itself, then in that case, you can actually change the sample size to 0. In that case, Exploratory will send only the column name and the data type information. In this case, the character or date. If you happen to have like numeric column, the numeric information as well. And it's most of the time actually like that's good enough for AI to come up with the script to do what you actually ask for. But if your operation it requires for the AI to see that data itself, then you want to set some sample size. In this case, maybe like 10 or 30. I'd recommend like start with small, and then if that's not enough, the quality is not enough, or maybe like that's not enough data for the AI to come up with a better script, then you want to incrementally increase that values. Okay, but anyway, so you have this, and then under the expected result section, and first, it rounds down the sign-up dates to the first day of each month. You remember this one? I wanted to calculate the conversion rate by month, but the data itself is the kind of day. So if first, like it actually convert to the monthly data, okay, and then it groups the data by the monthly, and then for each month it calculates. So here the conversion rate is converted customer divided by total customers. And in the same step, it's calculating the total customers who signed up, and then number of the customers who converted, and then you do that division basically. And that's what it's actually doing here in that script as well. Okay, and then looks okay. So I'm gonna click on the run button, and then I got this conversion rate for each month, January, February, March, and so on. But this data, I had this segment information. So let's say like I want to create a conversion rate by the segment and also the monthly, right? So in that case, open the existing prompt window, and then all I need to do is just add it. So either like by month and by segment, or you can even just say like for each segment. Either way, and that's the beauty of using this type of interface, because you're not constrained in the particular or the specific way of using the product. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to just click on that and hit the enter key. And then once it comes in, you can start looking. Here is the thing is different from last time is that here, last time it groups the data only by month, but this time it's actually grouping the data by segment. So that's actually this part. So therefore, whatever the operation, or whatever the sum or counting numbers type of operation is based on these groups, like a month and then segment. And then this is actually a new feature that we just released 2 days ago with Exploratory version 12.3. Now we added this preview button. So if you click on that, and without running as a step, you can see like how the data would look like. So in this case, now that we have the segment column, and then so January we have B2B and B2C 2 segments, and for each segment we have a conversion rate being calculated. Okay, so it looks okay. So I'm going to just run it as a step, and then now we got this data. Once you get the data, then you can go to the chart, and then you can visualize it. So visualizing it is pretty simple. You assign that, and then now I should see the conversion rate here. And then I'm going to separate this number by the segments because you remember that we created a conversion rate for the two segments. And I can use a repeat by to separate the chart into two different charts. So now I got B2C, B2B. We have two conversion rate KPI for each segment. Okay. So with that, I like to move on to the next KPI, which is MRR. So MRR is monthly recurring revenue. This is kind of like a basic of the foundation of the SaaS growth metrics. With this, you can actually forecast or calculate ARR, annual recurring revenue, which is basically 12 months of the monthly MRR. And you can forecast how your business is growing and where it's going. Calculating this is also simple. All you need to do is basically summarizing every month's payment in a way. So let's see here, I'm going to just quickly calculate that. Here I have the monthly payment. Okay. And then each month, a customer paid $50 or $100. This is based on the plan. Same thing. I'm going to just open the AI prompt dialog and then calculate MRR by month. And this is nothing fancy. As you can see, here is a group by the months and then calculate by using the sum function to aggregate the values. Then I click on run button. I got an MRR for each month. As you see, calculating MRR is simple, but you must be wondering if you are in this type SaaS or subscription based business, because not all customers pay monthly. Right? So usually you have the yearly plan. That means some of the customers chose to have the yearly plan, pay yearly. So it becomes something like this. You get, let's say, $1,200 in the first month, but then you can't recognize the $1,200 as part of today's MRR, right? So you want to actually spread out for the next 12 months and then divide it by 12. So each month you can take the $100 out of $1,200 as a revenue. So usually you have this data, just one row for each payment, right? But ideally, in order for you to calculate MRR, you want to have the data like this, right? So starting from January and all the way to December, and then each month should have the amount that is basically divided by 12 months of the whole amount. This is tricky because basically what you need to do is you have to inflate, right? I mean, for the first one single row to 12 rows. So this is why many teams actually ended up calculating MRR wrong, or actually takes a lot of time to calculate MRR, including the yearly payment customers. But by using the AI prompt, this problem can be solved very quickly. So let's take a look. Here is I have annual payment data here. Okay, so this one has all the customers are paid yearly. And then you don't have to separate. Sometimes you have the data in a single table. Then you can actually use the thing I'm going to do from now. But here, I just wanted to make it it's kind of simple so that you can see how that calculation been done. Okay, so I'm going to open the data wrangling with AI prompt with shortcut key. And then what I want to do is divide the yearly payment amount into monthly payments. Then if I just hit the enter key, so it's been generated. All you want to do is here, you read the expected result. So this creating a new column 11 months later that calculate the date 11 months after the payment date for yearly payment. But then reading it is kind of you feel like you understand or you not understand. It's kind of abstract, right? So that's where this preview feature actually comes in very handy. Okay, so click on the preview. And then you get the result, and the result looks okay, right? Because originally this a CID 80001 customer used to have $960, the one single row. Now this customer start from row number 1 to row number 12. So that means now this customer has 12 rows for each monthly revenue recognition. So $80. Okay, so the result looks okay, but Well, you must be wondering how this gets done by running this script. In that case, this is also from 12.3. Now you can partially run for the preview data. So let's say like the first one, I selected it and I click on the preview button. And then this one is not running the rest of the script, only the first one, okay? And then this part is actually doing still like the A0001 customer has only one single row, and the amount is still $960. Only thing is different is creating the new column called 11 months later. Okay, so the payment date is January, and the 11 months later is December. So now this way, like this customer is sort of like a subscription period starting and the end date, right? And then now I'm going to select to the complete function here and then click on the preview. And that's the part that one single row becomes 12 rows. Okay. And so in this case, it just inflated it by using payment date is like January, February, March, and for April and so on. But we don't have values. So that's why there's a next function called fill, in the values from the previous values. Now that we got fill all the values, right, in those like missing value area. But the problem is like this customer is $960. Doesn't mean like every month he's paying $960, right? Like we have to divide by 12. And that's the part that is doing here. Okay, so this mutate function part. And dividing the amount divided by 12. And then note that though, that even the first one, and then also here, it's actually using some kind of function called case when. That means conditionally doing this calculation. If the period column has a yearly value, then do this calculation. That means if you happen to have the monthly payment customer, as long as have that flag in the period column or whatever the column you have to identify if it's yearly or monthly, then it selectively do this operation for only the yearly payment customers. Okay, so now here it's if I'm gonna preview it, then the amount gets changed to 80 or whatever the amount being divided by 12. Okay, and then at the end it's select function is doing basically minus, meaning like we're gonna remove this column. Like after do all that, like we don't need this column. So let's say like if I don't select anything and I click on preview, and then basically that 11 months later column just disappear. So this is the end result, and then looks okay. So I'm gonna click on run button to calculate that a yearly customer's payment into monthly payment. Okay, so I have the monthly payment data here, but I've already calculated MRR. So if I go back to the original step, first step, and I still have like each sort of like a payment level information. So I like to combine this monthly payment information and annual payment information. You can use the AI prompt, or you can use from the AI. You don't have you can use it from UI by selecting from the column header menu, but you don't have to use AI for everything you do. But sometimes even like me, like I'm very proficient with the exploratory UI thing, but I'm getting more used to like using AI prompt. So either way, so in this case, I'm going to use it. So like merge with, and then you can use @ mark to pull up the list of the data frames, which is here, left-hand side. All the data frames will show up here. And then like I'm going to use this annual payment and then data. So that's what I want to do. So click on that, run button. And this will generate our script. Simply just combine these two data sets. So the annual payment data, those rows, 100 rows, I forgot like 1,200 rows or something, will be added at the bottom of this data frame. Okay, so run as a step. Now, if I go back to the before, I used to be 4,826 rows. Now adding like 1,200 rows. So now the 6,026 rows now. Okay. And then beauty of that is that the next one, I use AI prompt to calculate MRR. But when I run this step, it's not going to run the prompt itself because our script is being already generated. So what is going to happen is if I click on this, based on that previous data, which in this case is already merged, like annual and monthly payment data, and then on top of that, run that R script to calculate the MRR. Okay, so that's MRR for including the payment of the monthly and annual payment. Okay, with this, I like to move on to the next KPI. So next one is called ARPU, which is average revenue per user. This is simply like a revenue per customer over a period, right? So like it's kind of like average, how much like each customer's spending. Well, why it's important? Because it helps identify whether your revenue model is scaling or helps evaluate your customer acquisition costs, right? So make sure like you're spending money to attract the new customers, but at the same time you're making more revenue, obviously. Okay, so this one too, like you can create that calculation very simple way. But here, there's one thing we need to be careful. So at this point, we have only like a payment date and an MRR because this is already aggregated data, right? We don't really have the customer information, so like we can't even calculate the number of the customers at this point, right? So once we have the number of customers, then we can divide MRR, then you get the ARPU, right? So, but the previous step, we had that. We had the customer information, therefore like you can calculate how many customers are in each month. So the next step, this calculated MRR, that's the same step. I'm going to open this step. This is where you want to add another metric like ARPU, right? Okay. So here MRR, and then like let's say not just one single metric, you can actually add more metrics at the same in a single shot. Okay. So let's say like average revenue per user or per customer, ARPU. So like I'm going to go with user, but you can type like customer, or you can go with the ARPU as well. Okay. So let's say like I'm going to just go with that. In this case, now like this AI is going to create or generate the script to calculate these two things together. Okay. So now let's see like expected result. First, it creates a new column and a month. This is like a month data. That's the same thing as the MRR. And then here, though, there's something different. Now, like you start calculating customer count. And because like you need this information, so that like next step, it calculates ARPU by dividing MRR by the number of unique customers, which comes from this customer count. Okay. And then looks okay. I'm not going to run that as a step. Instead, I'm going to look at the data with a preview. Okay, here, and then now like we have MRR as well as customer count and the ARPU. Again, this ARPU, average revenue per user, is a result of dividing MRR by customer count. Okay, so that's pretty simple. So like let's go to our next KPI, which is the churn rate or retention rate. These two metrics is basically the two edges of the one sword, or like the two sides of the one same coin, right? So the churn is the percentage of customers lost or who canceled, and the retention is the inverse. That's the opposite side. Okay, so like if the churn rate is 20%, and then like retention rate is 80%, right? So why it's important? Obviously, like retention is the life of SaaS or subscription-based business. If you don't have a good retention rate, that means you have a higher churn rate. That means that sort of like you have the revenue leaking. So like you gotta keep adding the new customers in order for you to grow. But if you have a good retention rate, like even though like without like having like new customers, like many new customers coming in, you have the stable business, right? Okay. So typically, like once you start a SaaS type of the business, then like, that's really the first thing you want to focus. Churn rate is obviously you want to look at the previous months and how many customers you had, including existing and new customers. And then this month, so let's say like one customer canceled. That means you have only 3. So therefore, churn rate is 1 divided by 4. right? So it's pretty simple. And then retention is the opposite side, right? So like you had 4 customers, now like you have 3 customers. This 3 doesn't include the new customers, obviously, because this is what we care here is like how many customers you had last month, and out of that, like how many you retain, right? So in this case, 3 divided by 4, and then 75% is the retention rate. And then let's go back to the exploratory and then let's calculate the retention rate as well. So I'm going to do is like a retention rate. And then this will generate our script to not just MRR, ARPU, but also the retention rate as well. And here and the result, now like we have a retention rate column. So like the second month is 0.73. That means 73%. And then like here, the script getting more complicated, but you can see like expected result. And what it's actually doing is a retention rate here. So this is one is counting customers divided by previous month's customer count. And then the customer count is where customer count coming from here, customer count, number of unique customers in the previous months, right? So here customer count is 203, 159, and so on. Here's one tricky thing though. It's not focusing on the customer count itself. You are actually looking at the continuing customers, right? So continuing in this case, 149. And then divided by the customer count and 203. And that's because continuing is the customers that you retain. And how it's calculating continuing customers here, number of customers with at least 2 payments. So where the payments information coming from is here, the first, it counts payment for each customer by creating the payment count column. Okay, so that's what it's doing. So what it's doing that here, I'm going to just partially select this and then click on the preview. And then in this case, this is actually original data with before aggregating it. So each customer has, let's say this customer 0001. And then the first time is actually paying count is first time. This is like when this customer just signed up, right, in the first month. But this one has multiple rows because he or she keep using it. So every month, like he pay, let's say like $50 here. And then the first payment, second payment, third payment. This information is important because if the payment count is greater than 2, then that customer is considered as a retained customers, okay, continued customers. And that's what it's doing. And then like I'm going to just click on the preview again. And then basically this continuing customer count is a part of that information, okay. And then once you get that, like you can get retention rate, or the opposite is a churn rate, okay. So now we have the MRR and ARPU and retention rate. So let's go to the next one, and which is the last one. So NRR, net revenue retention, or net revenue retention rate. This is similar to like the retention rate we just covered, but this one is focusing on the revenue, not the number of the customers, but we are focusing on the amount that customers spend, okay, or pay. So the definition is the total recurring revenue from existing customers, including expansions and contraction, meaning that some customers upgrade or downgrade, right? So this one can go up more than or beyond 100%. So retention rate itself, the best case scenario, you retain 100% customers, right? So that's the best case scenario. But the revenue, because some of the customers upgrade, right? So therefore, this rate can go beyond 100%. And if it's beyond 100%, that means without adding the new customers, your business is growing. So that's like kind of an ideal situation, right? So that's why, like, in order to evaluate your sort of business growth, this NRR is really the key performance indicator. Just to kind of like explain a little bit more. So for the expansion case, we had February 4 customers, and the 1 customer actually canceled. So we retain only 3 customers. So for the retention rate is not like in 100%, right? It's kind of went down. However, because of 2 customers actually upgraded, now they are paying more than previous. So therefore, when you focus on the revenue, this case in 125%, right? So the same thing can happen with a contraction, which is a downgrade, right? So the same amount of the customers, let's say that you retain, but one customer downgraded it. Now like your revenue actually shrink. So the retention rate for the revenue, this is net revenue retention, goes down. And then NRR, in order to calculate, so this one is pretty simple in a way by looking at this picture, because you want to actually calculate MRR from continued customers, from the retained customers, divided by previous MRR. Okay, so let's go back. So here I want to add the NRR retention rate, net retention rate, or I'm going to just type just simply NRR, and then let's see how it goes. And here I have the net revenue retention calculated here at the last column. And under the expected result, I see net revenue retention, which is calculated existing customer revenue to previous month's total revenue. And existing customer revenue is here, existing customer MRR, and also revenue from continued customers. So once we have this information in here in this script, net revenue retention with the existing customer MRR. Existing customer MRR it's using sum underscore if function, which is like a conditional sum function. So the payment count is greater than 2, and then you calculate that amount and recognize the amount as part of the existing customer MRR. Okay, and then looks okay. Then click on Run button finally, and then you get all the KPI calculated. So like MRR and ARPU, retention rate, and the net revenue retention. And also we calculated conversion rate in a conversion data frame. That is a different data set. But now that we have 5 KPI created by just typing the AI prompt. So to close this seminar, I like to touch on like some of the final thought. So the paradigm shift is we are making in the data wrangling, but also that means for creating a business KPI as well. So the old paradigm, like you have to use for Excel or a spreadsheet, and then basically a bunch of like a formula in different places, and then creating the conversion rate, retention rate, or whatever that's have you. Right. So you need it to be sort of like quote unquote Excel MBA type of people, right? Or you have the data in the database and you write a SQL query. So like you need to be like SQL engineers, or you need to have this type of the resources to be able to calculate that type of numbers. But a new paradigm, anybody can do it. You don't have to be the MBA guy or spreadsheet guy or SQL engineer guy. You can just type what you want in terms of like a KPI or calculations. So just type like a calculated retention rate, and then as you saw, you get that KPI calculated in a very flexible way by monthly or weekly or by segment and what have you. That means basically we are democratizing KPI. The KPI is not for those like spreadsheet people. Anybody should be able to create. That means more people can make decisions based on the data informed way. And that means you can accelerate the business growth. Okay, so the next step is that like now like you have KPI, so you want to monitor. So in Exploratory, you can create a dashboard and then have those like a KPI or create the charts and embed them in, and then publish to Exploratory server so that you can schedule so that every month or every week you can, or even every day, you can keep monitoring those numbers. Right. But one thing you got to be careful is that like this type of the metrics values goes ups and downs, up and down, right? So every week or every month. So you don't want to sort of like reflectively like act based on that one up or one down. You want to see the trend. You want to actually separate the signal from the noise. And that's where like you want to use something called XMR chart. So these 2 topics, I have done the seminar in the past. So go to exploratory.io, our website, and then go to under the Learn, you see the training seminar menu. And then under that, there's a seminar section. Go to the detail. And then when you scroll down to the bottom, you see a checkout for the past seminar. And here you can see all the seminar recording we have done before. So the XMR chart that I was talking about is here. You can click on that and see that recorded video. And the dashboard we have done a couple times. So for example, how to use Exploratory series and a dashboard and note, or just simply like create a dashboard. So either way, this video, I think it help you to get you started quickly. Okay. So, I talk about paradigm shift, but the paradigm shift involves the new way of thinking. It's not really about the new tool or new technology. It's really about a new way of thinking. The new mindset is transition from how can I use this tool to do what I want to do, but to the new paradigm where how can I express what I want to do. So you're not constrained by the UI or like a script or function. Instead, you can express more flexibly, and then the AI will come up with the script, or in this case, to get your job done. Okay, so these features, including creating a KPI and also the AI prompt and everything you saw, is already available today. You go to our website and then go under the download link, and then go to the Exploratory desktop, and then the latest version, 12.3, is available for the download or upgrade. Just one thing to note though, if you are on a community plan or academic plan or public edition, and this AI feature is not available yet, we are working to expand this AI feature to more broader user base. But currently, this feature is limited only for the personal plan and business or the paid plan. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining, and hope see you in the next seminar. Bye.